He says, we are proud to have Dianna Russini as a part of the radio show. Always a pleasure to have you on. So you've been on top of this Derrick Henry thing. They are obviously not practicing outside today. They are going to be inside the bubble. We are going to see how he reacted basically to the first day of extended work on the practice field. What's been kind of been the timeline for you, and you put out on your Twitter when you talked about this initially that it is a long shot at this point for him to be available for Week 18. Kind of, if you could, for the audience, explain why that might be the case.
Yeah, so I knew that Derrick and the rest of the team really had this game earmarked. This was going to be the game they wanted him to return full and go.
Yeah.
And he'd been working towards that. And from everything I can gather in terms of his recovery, the rehab, it was going really well. It went smoothly as it could. And in terms of his overall progress, he's right on target. They feel good about it. I know that there was a lot of thought that because he's Derrick Henry and we know what an incredible athlete he is and how hard he works, that maybe he would be able to speed that up and get back a little earlier. But anytime I spoke with people close to Derrick, when I spoke to people with the Titans organization, just to try to get that sense, it was always a little bit slow down a bit. You know, they really wanted to give him time. So it really makes sense to me that he's most likely not going to play against this Houston Texans team. As important of a game as this is, you know, trying to get home field advantage, trying to get that first round bye. But, you know, from what I can gather, it seems that they look at it as if they can take care of the ball, and the run game's been really good and it's held up really well without Derrick. If they can just get this win and give Derrick even more time to rest up to get ready for the playoffs, and it's the best decision that they can make.
And they're doing that with a lot of guys. Obviously, Derrick is the biggest name, but Julio Jones factors into this equation as well as far as managing what they are physically able to give you at any point in time as they try and just get this extra bye and get a little healthier. But at this point, Dianna, it doesn't feel like to me, and I don't want to say this because they did lose to the Texans. They choked in just a awful fashion here in Nashville when they lost to the then 1-8 Houston Texans at the time. I don't want to say that they don't need Derrick because they can't sleep on really any opponent, but the running game hasn't necessarily fallen off the face of the earth without him. I don't know what people in the league, around the league, feel about Deontay Foreman and Dontrell Hilliard, but those guys have to have jobs next year. They've been great.
They've been fantastic, you know, but you look back at that game when they lost against the Texans at Nissan Stadium, 5 turnovers in the rain. Taking care of the ball was the issue, not the run game. Ryan Tannehill was the one who, you know, wasn't playing well.
First 4-interception game of his career.
Exactly. And you know, he's the one that needs to play well this weekend more than any other part of this offense. You know, but it's funny. I was on SportsCenter all day today, and you know, a lot of the hosts kept asking me, how big of a story is this that Derrick Henry is back? And I said, it's a big story because, of course, he's the centerpiece of this offense. We've seen him win games for this team multiple times. But I think the even bigger story is the fact that so many other players are healthy. You look at their injury report now, that thing is squeaky clean. I mean, this is something this team has not been able. You know, they haven't had good news on the injury front. We know that they've set the record. We've talked about this a million times about active players on this team and how many injuries they've dealt with collectively all season long. And, you know, Bart Scott was an analyst on the show with me today, and he brought up the point. He said, I feel like when Derrick Henry got hurt, the rest of the world, and obviously not the Titans fans, but the rest of the world sort of turned their back on Tennessee thinking they've got no shot. And then look at them now. They are just one game away from getting that #1 seed in the AFC. And I think if Titans fans should feel good about anything, it's the trust that they should have in this coaching staff and making the right decision on what's best for the team.
Dianna Russini of ESPN is here with us on 104.5 The Zone. At Dianna ESPN, of course, is where you can follow her for all of her NFL insights and Michael Bolton opinions. In fact, the Zone TV chat, YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and Twitch, we have no questions about football. It's all about what Michael Bolton songs did you sing along to? Do you appreciate his range? For my money, Brandon says it doesn't get any better than when he sang. Oh, that one cut off. I can't read it entirely, Lucas. But we'll get back to the Michael Bolton stuff later on.
He did sing the Lonely Island song, Dianna told us during the break, which is all I wanted to to know.
I can't believe he has such a great sense of humor, because he actually asked the crowd of not many people, but that's okay. If they had any requests. So that was one of them. And it was really fun to listen to him talk about how that actually was career changing for him when SNL invited him on to do this Lonely Island skit.
Sure.
Because he was able to poke fun at it himself.
That's a career revitalization type move. You love to see things like that.
If you can laugh at yourself, you're good with me.
Yeah. You have to. Certainly in this business, you have to be able to laugh at yourself. We'll laugh at Dianna Russini's wallet in a minute, by the way, speaking of that. So you brought up the coaching staff and the trust that the fan base should have in Mike Vrabel and his staff, because, of course, when these conversations get had, it's almost as much about the head coach as the face for everybody, as opposed to everyone who puts in the work to make sure that these plans are in place to allow the players to have a chance to succeed. But obviously, as we get closer to the regular season's end, which is, of course, this week, Dianna, a lot of people talking about Mike as a Coach of the Year candidate, betting favorite. He is not, but it's tough. And I want you to tell me if I'm being a homer, because I sat there and I've watched their season all year long. I haven't covered the Packers like that. I haven't covered the Bengals and what Zach Taylor has been able to do in Cincinnati, so I cannot speak to those. But what I have seen them do this year is almost unthinkable to me, that they are still as the top seed in the AFC with a record amount of players that have dressed for them this season because of the injury report that we've talked about. Am I a homer for thinking that Mike Vrabel absolutely needs to be the Coach of the Year?
You are not a homer at all. In fact, I would double down on that. I actually don't have a coach in mind that comes close. If I had to, let's say, come up with a second place, Zach Taylor.
Yeah.
A lot of arguments are being made, I know, on the ESPN airwaves, that it should be Matt LaFleur. I think that's ridiculous. He's got Aaron Rodgers. What does he had to do? Okay.
Well, I mean, I've seen the record before LaFleur got there, and with Mike McCarthy and all those things. But
Agreed.
I mean, I don't want to completely dismiss Matt LaFleur, because I like Matt. He was here for a couple of years, or 1 year.
Yes. I still think in terms of the roster, the injuries, what the coaching staff was really being asked to do this season, and to be able to not just survive but flourish, especially during that gauntlet of games that they had without Derrick Henry. I don't have anything to plug here on the show, so I'll plug other people's stuff. But if you listen to Chris Long's podcast, Greenlight, he actually had Will Compton on.
Yeah.
And I was actually listening to it this morning on my drive to work. And if you really want to understand the power and the brilliance of Mike Vrabel, listen to Will Compton talk about him, because Will is very transparent about his relationship with Coach off the field, which I guess they get along great. Apparently, Mike is this sincere, caring, thoughtful, softer person, which obviously a lot of people, if you're in the media, if you're a fan, we don't really see that side that much, because he presents a certain way. He certainly has tons of New England in him.
Yeah.
But the most meaningful stuff that Will was sharing was what it's like in the building, and that is it's the respect that he has for the players, the respect the players have. And, when you think of trying, let's say we could be in an NFL science lab to make up what the perfect ideal coach would be, there's a lot of different formulas we could probably put together, a lot of little options. But I think the idea that you have a former player with the attitude, with the strict disciplinarian background that he has, on top of the experience, on top of his just sheer presence, it works, and it works really well. You don't hear a lot of people complaining, players specifically, at least the ones I speak to, complaining about what they're asked of from Mike Vrabel, because he's always just trying to get the best out of them. And we've seen it. That is their identity. You guys have talked about this on the show for years now, that the Titans are Mike Vrabel, and that's nothing but a good thing for the organization as a whole. And the Titans are one of those teams around the league, when I have to cover other teams and, I'm catching up with other players and coaches, everyone always asks me what it's like. Like, what do they like to be around? And I always say the same thing. What's Mike Vrabel like? That's these guys. Some of them just a little softer, a little nicer, but they just want to win, and they don't act like winners, meaning They don't buy into any of this. They're 12-5. They don't even care. I never get the feeling that they are potentially the number one seed in the AFC. And that's because I think Coach does a great job of keeping everybody level.
Well, should we hear a little bit of Mike Vrabel keeping everybody level? Because the softer side of that, it happened on Monday, Dianna. One of these moments that you're talking about. Lucas, go ahead and play that audio for Dianna if we could.
No way.
Just a testament to the staff, testament to the players. A lot of these players that are, playing well for us, or contributing, these guys didn't have a home. It's like a stray cat you take in, and you take a chance on them, and they reward you. And those guys have been fantastic, especially the two backs.
He's calling these players stray cats, Dianna. He's treating NFL running backs like stray animals, saying when you take them into your home, they reward you.
What did he call the team in 2019? A bunch of hungry.
Street. Well, Malcolm Butler was the street rat.
They were street rats.
Kerry Coombs, who was the deep defensive backs coach here, and then the Ohio State defensive coordinator this year. He called him the angry hyena. Like he's got an animal thing. I don't know what he's doing here. The hyenas.
Remember? Because then Brady posted on Instagram all the hyenas.
Yeah.
Basically, or did the video of the lion mauling the hyenas being the Titans, and then Tennessee went up to New England and stunned them in that awesome wild card round. But yeah, so I think, well, first of all, that you're right. That's probably the softest we've heard him in terms of sharing things. But Buck, I think you were in the press room in the post game conversation we had with him. And this isn't because it was my question, but I actually was shocked that he answered the question I asked, which was essentially, how did you get here? Which is a super macro question after the game. He didn't have much time to think about it. But I thought he was really genuine, and I saw a side that made me think in the moment of, I get it. I get why these guys buy into this guy, because I think he gives off a feeling that he believes that you can do anything. And I think when you have a leader like that, and you can figure out a way to line up a team that all is on the same page, that wants the same goals and puts the team first, you can't lose.